My name is Ethan Moore. I'm 41 years old. From the outside, my life looked quiet, orderly, and structured. I was a quality control engineer at a major automotive company. I was married to a woman named Alice. We had been together for 12 years. I liked the structure of my life. I'd brew my coffee at 7:15 a.m. and read the newspaper. I'd leave home at 8:10 and be at my desk by 8:35. Everything was scheduled until the things I couldn't see started infiltrating my plans. It all began one Sunday morning when Alice forgot her phone in the living room. A coincidence in her eyes. The first crack from my perspective. The phone buzzed. Someone saved as M was calling. I didn't answer, but an unfamiliar feeling surged inside me. The next morning at breakfast, Alice smiled and handed me a pancake. All the while, that letter M kept circling in my mind. That day, I didn't walk to work as usual. I got in the car, looked in the mirror, and for the first time, I saw myself looking exhausted. The tiredness wasn't just physical. It was the silence reflected in my eyes. For a week, I couldn't find a single clue about M, but I started observing. Alice's smile occasionally looked forced. She never let her phone out of sight. Long baths after dinner, whispering phone calls on the balcony, hidden notes in her purse. These were all cracks screaming within the silence. One night, I woke up to find Alice gone from the bed. I heard suspicious whispering from the kitchen. I crept closer. She was talking to a man near the window. The shadows weren't clear, but her expression was. He wasn't a stranger. That was M. Mark. Mark was an old school friend. They had accidentally bumped into each other at a reunion, or so Alice had told me. I hadn't brought it up at the time, but I'd remembered. It was a shadowy fragment of the past. But now, in the middle of the night, this silhouette at our window had taken form. At breakfast, I didn't say anything to Alice, but I began to watch her every move. My observations became part of a plan, not to forgive, but to confront. Forgiving someone who made a fool of me would be an insult to my own intelligence. That day, a cold determination settled inside me. I updated the home's security cameras. Not for digital surveillance. If needed, I would bring her down without using a single piece of tech. Because real knowledge was hidden in glances, in words unsaid, buried in silence. The first stage of my plan was to understand how much of my life I had lost. I wrote down every detail of the past 12 years on paper. When she laughed, when she grew distant, the meals I cooked where she forgot to say thank you, the vacations she cancelled last minute because of work. It was all part of the record. Not evidence, but a quest for meaning, and meaning was the first step to collapse. Then I followed her to places she frequently visited. Libraries, art galleries, yoga studios. This wasn't just cheating. It was rewriting life, erasing me and drafting a new script with Mark. But I was a character who wouldn't be written out. That night, sitting on the balcony, I made a decision. I wouldn't fight with lies like hers. I wouldn't adapt to her world. I would create my own. Quietly, meticulously, with something she could never wield. Truth. I had become invisible in Alice's world, but I gave everything to make her steps visible. Her contact with Mark was secret, but to a watchful mind, nothing is hidden. A forgotten note in the mailbox, a theatre ticket hastily shoved into her coat pocket, even an invoice from a florist. All tiny clues, but together they painted a grand picture. I bought myself a small notebook. I noted the days and hours she met Mark, her facial expression when she came home, what time she arrived. This wasn't revenge, it was an archive. I was building a betrayal catalogue of my own life. Then I analysed Alice's social circle. Who gave her the courage to do this? There was a woman, someone named Lana. After meeting with her, Alice would return happier. But that joy never reached me. I overheard snippets of their conversations. You deserve better. Ethan doesn't understand you. Those words showed a psychological front forming against me. One day, Alice came home late. She had some files, but an envelope fell out. It was a letter from Mark. He was talking about building a future together. Alice had unknowingly left the door open for me. I placed the letter back. From that moment on, I joined the game. But not like them. My moves were quiet, deep, and permanent. I took a leave of absence from work. Without telling anyone, I moved to a small cabin in the mountains. There I thought of everything. Alice's psyche, Mark's weaknesses, how their own circle could help me. My plan had 3 phases. Isolate Alice, expose Mark, and make them destroy themselves with their own hands. First, I spread lies to Alice's trusted circle. I claimed she had stolen Mark from a married man. I sent Lana an anonymous letter. Alice is using you. She only calls when she needs something. Result? Lana cut her off. Then I targeted Mark. An old friend of mine worked IT at his company. We coordinated a data leak. Turns out Mark was seeing another woman too. That was Alice's second heartbreak. Final step. Silence. Alice was now alone, with no one to lean on. That night, she sobbed alone on the balcony. I approached her. "We can start over," I said, her eyes filled with tears. "I thought everything was ruined," she whispered. I smiled. What I thought was simple. It already is. You just haven't realised it yet. Alice became a shadow of herself. The betrayal had aged her overnight. She barely slept, her eyes hollow. Every corner of the house echoed with silence, a silence that no longer protected, but exposed. One evening, I suggested we watch a movie together. She seemed surprised. We watched in silence. After the credits rolled, I simply said, "Good night," and left. She stared at the screen long after I was gone. It was the beginning of her guilt surfacing. The next morning, she cried at breakfast. "Is everything okay?" I asked. She shook her head. "Just tired." But I knew better. Her exhaustion wasn't physical, it was spiritual. That night, she lingered beside me in bed but said nothing. I turned off the light, pretending not to notice her trembling hands. In the darkness, truth began to weigh on her more than any words ever could. Days passed. Alice moved like a ghost. She cleaned without reason, cooked meals she didn't eat, laughed at her own jokes and quickly fell silent. Her mask was slipping. And yet, I said nothing. Then I found the box. While she was out, I opened a drawer in her study and discovered a small box hidden beneath old papers. Inside was a photo, her and Mark laughing in our backyard. The timestamp? Just weeks ago. This wasn't a mistake. It was a mockery. Their betrayal hadn't been secret. It had been celebrated. I placed the photo back exactly as I found it. I didn't confront her. I didn't scream. Instead, I planned. The next morning, I asked if she wanted to go for a walk. She looked shocked but agreed. I led her to the abandoned amusement park from our childhood. The rusted Ferris wheel loomed over us like a monument to what we once were. "Remember this place?" I asked. Her eyes welled up. "Ethan," she whispered. "I know," I said. "I've known for a long time." She collapsed to her knees. "I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I want to come back." I looked at her. Calm, cold, resolved. "Alice, I already left you. I was just waiting for you to realise it." Months passed. The divorce was clean. fast. My mornings changed. Coffee tasted better without the bitter aftertaste of suspicion. The silence in my home was no longer empty. It was peaceful. Alice tried to return. Late-night drunk calls, nostalgic texts, but I didn't respond. The past was no place to live. I rebuilt. I reconnected with old friends. Took up cycling again. Moved into a smaller, cozier apartment. At work, I thrived. Promoted to project manager. Life was responding to my stillness with opportunity. Then one evening, I found a note on my car windshield. He didn't leave you because you lost. He left because you never won. Mark's final attempt at relevance. I folded the note and burned it in my fireplace. He would remain ash, like everything else that tried to dim my fire. One Sunday, I went for a hike in the woods. On a quiet bench, I met Claire. She was reading. We talked. We walked. We laughed. I never told her about Alice. She never asked. Claire came into my life not as a cure, but as proof. Proof that I had healed. Proof that love doesn't need to be loud to be strong. My revenge wasn't destroying Alice or Mark. It was resurrecting Ethan Moore. And I had succeeded. But what if it were you? After 12 years of marriage, what would you do if you discovered such a betrayal? Would you quietly walk away? Or would you plan everything and take your revenge in silence? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you've been through something similar, tell your story. Because sometimes a single word can be the strength someone else needs to survive. Remember, you are not alone.